Good afternoon. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on 2 Million Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook and YouTube. Just go to your Facebook page, look us up, or hit see first to see and hear all the great programs that we have here on WNHHLP. And just a reminder, Cannabis Corner is also streaming live on the Greenhaven Media Facebook page and ProCannabisMedia.com. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Cannabis Corner. It is Monday, January the 19th, Martin Luther King Day. Hope everyone's having a good day today. I am joined here. I am your host, Joe the Chance, Joe the Weed Guy, and of course, I am joined here by the one and only Uncle Lou, Farmer Lou. How are you today?
Oh, my brother, how are you? I'm maintaining, just getting through the hurdles of these winters. And you said it the best many times. These cold winters as they go here in the Northeast are never the favorite. But, it is what it is. So, sunnier weather. And we still count our blessings, right, brother?
Could be worse, bro. There are parts of the country that are getting hammered with snow. Hammered with it.
We definitely did not get the horrible snow that we could have gotten. So I can't be mad about that.
No, we've had mild winters here anyway. But
yeah, well, plus and minuses. Global warming is great for comfortability.
Fake global warming, chemtrails, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But I did hear RFK is thinking about banning chemtrails, so we'll see if you can get that done. He wants to do a lot of things, but I do believe there are people who are trying to stop him. But we'll see.
He's you know what, politically wise and all that, these are all very interesting people, and don't count anything out. That's the one thing I will say for everybody and everything, and whatever styles of government you choose, what you want to claim you are, or whatever label you're looking to put. Don't ever count anybody out in anything. They're where they are for reasons. You know what I mean? So,
well, yeah, there's two things I'd like to see him really do, and that would be the fluoridation of the water.
Right.
If you could stop that, and if you could stop the chemtrails. I'd like to see them stop advertising the pharmaceutical drugs on TV, but I doubt he'll ever be able to do that because there's just too much money behind it.
The money behind it, brother.
Yeah, we're talking both sides. The pharma and the media. They both would lose money. The media, everything is sponsored by fucking.
Yeah, the amount of money that they put into it, and that's what makes and breaks generic versus over the counter. You know what I mean? And that's what's going to make or break our cannabis world as well.
Yeah,
because just the places that advertising, well, the places that allow advertising, how much money is really getting pumped into it?
Yeah,
we look at Las Vegas and Cali and Colorado, depending on what the rules are for certain townships and things. It's big business, bro. It is.
Yeah, and the people who are spending the money are the big corporations because they have the money to spend on advertising.
Yeah.
Right? Even look locally here in Connecticut. Who do you hear? I mean, you can only do radio, but who do you hear on the radio? It's the big guys that are sponsoring all these segments.
And it's not even the brands, bro. It's not even the brands. It is the producers themselves because the brands aren't even doing it.
No, it's just INSA. I hear INSA, Fine Federal is all over the place.
Oh, those are big advertising dollars, bro. You know that. We know that.
Yep.
It's the same three or four that have radio advertising, the big radio station advertising, and I've looked into it. It's expensive.
I'd work with radio. I know how much it costs. You're not getting away with less than $2,000 a month. And that's for a minimal program.
That's for like 2 commercials a week.
Yeah.
Bro, you
late at night.
In your radio background, you did, full transparency, you did share your contacts into the space. And even with that, the very nice people with the great deals, realistic deals, couldn't get us in to anything good for under $4 or $5 grand, something good.
And these guys, they buy by bulk too. They'll buy
Right.
6 months or a year at a time. So they pay less because they're putting up a big fat check in the beginning, and they get prime time. They'll get the sponsorships with Chaz and AJ. They'll be the ones doing the Mike Lapatino show. And if you're lucky, your cannabis company will get late night ads.
Yeah. Exactly. You can listen during the day and hear the ads on the radio, and I go, man, that's an expensive ad.
Yeah.
Billboards are way cheaper than that.
Yeah. Yeah. You could do.
That's
Yeah. But
it's
Connecticut doesn't allow it.
and the states that do allow it, go into the way of liquor and pharmaceuticals because they have the extra money and that's what makes them quote unquote premium brands. Look at alcohol. What makes it premium spirit? Literally, it's defined by the amount of money
The
spent on
marketing. Yeah.
advertising.
Why is Tito's so much better? Why? Because they spent a ton of money to advertise Tito's.
Right.
And all these other premium brands. But one thing I wanted to get out of the way, I wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, of
That's
course,
right.
good old Gabe. And today I want to give Gabe a shout out. It is his birthday today.
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday to Gabe. He's got 2 locations over in Meriden at 626 East Main. And of course, right here down the road from me in Orange, 185 Boston Post Road. He's open Monday through Sunday, every day of the week. And you can catch him down at Orange or Meriden. He's always doing classes down there, and
He's a local guy. He's doing it. I
Yeah.
saw him. I was picking up tacos the other day, and I saw him and his family having dinner.
There you go.
We like to remember that as we do all this, we're still part of that small business portion of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we're the voice for them. That's
For
really what it.
for all of the small business part of that, brother. We're the mouthpiece. I appreciate the mouthpiece for when I was open. I appreciate that we are able to shout out Kibra and her small business as she operates with her partners and has been
Yeah.
able to work through it really well. Big shout out. And you know what?
Even Jocelyn, I wanted to mention.
100% Jocelyn as well.
Jocelyn's got a nice event going on this Saturday down in Hartford at the Mercado Popular. It's a
Yep.
seed event. She's giving away free seeds
Look at that.
for your
And it's
garden.
heirloom seeds.
Flowers, vegetables, whatever, down there at the Mercado in Hartford.
We'll send her some seeds of the other type so that she can give those away too.
That's a great idea.
We gave some away to the we're always giving seeds away. That's one thing
We
that
gave some
gotta
to the
say.
tribe last week. Yes, we did.
Joe, you and I have, when Kristen was on the show, when everybody, and big shout out to Lupino from Gene Traders that stocked a lot of those seeds that we give away because we give away a whole lot of Gene Trader seeds.
Yeah.
It's this community has been one that's continued to grow, and I really look forward to our guest today because man, he's just another member of that community that's continued to do so many things. We joined on when
we all joined together at one point. Yeah.
When Jason gets on, we'll talk about it a lot. I still have him in my phone as the Piff Wizard. We'll joke about it. I'll joke about it always. The guy is a good guy. He's been doing some things for a very long time. So, we're on the radio. What now? Almost 8 years, Joe. 7 and change.
8 years this year in March.
Yeah, 7 and change. So we're on 8 years. We've really had a large community that comes out of this, man. And being able to talk with everybody, every week. And Joe, I'm just thinking about it right now. We've had this great sponsor now with Gabe, community interactions with him. We've had some really awesome friendships that have supported us, and we've supported them with the Burning Learn. Jen, Pat are absolutely dear friends.
The guys got over there at Drip House. These
OGs,
are all
OGs, the Warriors. Cody, Joe, Christina, everybody. Duncan. Let's make sure not to. So if we did forget a name, it was just because we're just randomly spewing it right now. We're no intentions to miss anything because, this is almost 8 years, Joe. And that show in March will be a great show.
Yes, it's like March 18th, I think. I don't know if that falls on a Monday or not this year, but we'll make a deal out of it when it comes.
That's right. But the idea is the community that's been built around it. And, you see the rise of the bigger businesses and the falls of the smaller ones and the
Yeah.
successes of the small ones that are doing well. So if you
Y-
can, if you grow, go check out Gabe.
Go
You
check
know,
out Gabe. It's time. It's time to start thinking about what strains you want.
there you
It's
go.
time to start getting your equipment, your little clone, the things
Little
that
setup,
they're a little
literally.
setup. Time to get rolling, get your soil going, figuring out what you're going to do for this year
You know,
because,
Joe,
it's getting there.
let me tell you, right now, it's could be as simple as, okay, cool, I need to make that $25 investment. I need
Yeah.
to go get a seed start setup, which is literally it comes in one setup. They're like 15, $20 depending what it is. They 12 spaces for the cubes. It comes with the cubes. Gabe's got them, you know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
could just pick one up, pick up a couple seeds or something, and literally for 20, $30, you can get yourself set up to get
Yeah.
going. Um,
Exactly.
you're going to need
And
to spend more depending on what you're going to do, as we tell everybody, or maybe you're a seasoned grower that already has the plan in place and they just need to start their seasons. $12, $13 first purchase. You know what I mean?
yeah, and don't forget there's always used equipment out there. Gabe can always hook you up with some there's always used equipment floating around.
It's a
If you
community.
It's a community. We share. I personally have sold tents and traded tents with other people for certain things and
Yeah,
picked up lights. You we do
it's
that
a
for each other.
community.
We do that for each other, and that's important. And I'll probably have Gabe on maybe next week just to give us an update about the grow season and stuff like that. But
Well,
yeah, it's
yeah,
important. Yeah,
I
it's
can't
very,
wait to
very.
have that show because I'd love to start talking about it. Because hey, if you need 6 weeks before things start happening, that's a month and a half. So you figure you need 2 months before from when you start that seed to when you even decide if it's going to be the plant that you might put into light rotation
Yeah,
for
exactly.
this season.
You could do your pheno hunting now. You could get it started.
Just little things. There's little things. It takes time. So anything you start now, you won't see anything till late March, April, and then it's if you happen to be one of the guerrilla warriors that like to, guerrilla grow, as we like to say, is outdoor. What it used to be, because you have to go in. You used to have to go in like the Viet Cong,
Yeah,
like
hide it in
guerrilla
the woods, right?
hiding in the woods. So, but that's we called that guerrilla growing. Now you can have as long I think that the bet this is not legal advice. Don't say that Lou told you to do it or whatever. But if you're gonna grow outside, grow within the legal limit. Don't make it auspicious. Don't make it
Yep.
make sure it's conspicuous. Don't make sure it bothers anybody. Do all the good neighborly things.
Do like they would in Mass. Do like Mass's regulations where you can't see it from the street.
Right.
Things like that. I mean, because Mass does allow outdoor grow, but you have to not be able to see it from the street, and it has to be contained.
Joe, I grew weed 16 years old in my backyard in Brooklyn in 1990. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
So it's done. Just you have to keep the rules about you.
yeah.
Don't get caught. Don't like this isn't legal. This isn't legal advice, but don't get caught. Do the things that make it so that you don't get caught. Yeah, weed's legal, but let's not be a jerk about it. It's not legal to grow it outside, but hey,
Yeah, don't put it in your front
yes.
yard.
It's those things that it's like, hey, don't be a crappy neighbor, because hey, your neighbor might be the one that wants to rat you out.
That's
Uh,
right. That's right. And
it-
it's not that the cops are checking. I mean, we haven't gotten to the point where drones are surveilling the skies on a regular basis. Now we might, but they're not checking unless, like you say, there's a complaint.
right. And I'm gonna take it one step further because so have you heard of the flock
I have.
AI?
Oh, I've been looking into the flock.
So flock AI is something that's going to use it's going to
Everybody's
police.
ring camera
Exactly.
has
That's the
and all
because it's all
connected as
Amazon.
one.
So
Yes,
now
I get it.
your
So
ring camera, who might be your next door neighbor, who's not a rat, who doesn't know better, but you're you're seen trimming a plant through an open gate one day, and AI is going to pick it up, and it won't be anybody else ratting on you. It'll be the flock. And so, as
right.
your town start to decide if you're going to opt into these type of things, because it does take user opt in, and user opt in these cases is community board meetings.
Yep.
It's your little community meeting that 5 people show up to on a random Tuesday once a month.
Yep.
That's going to get voted on, and they're going to your Ring camera is going to be implemented by the popo immediately.
Yeah, it's really scary. I have been very much researching the flock. It's very scary.
Because towns in Connecticut have started to adapt it, and also
Absolutely. And the cameras, the traffic cameras, the stoplight cameras.
everything.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting there where they always predicted we would go. And obviously today being MLK Day, we're reminded of the 60s and all the civil unrest that happened during that time. And here we are in 2026,
Handing it over.
basically right in the same place, but even worse, I would say.
Like handing it over voluntarily. Like
Yeah.
the world has been able to put fear into so many people's minds that they don't understand. This is our small conspiracy section of the Cannabis Corner.
Jason just joined us quickly.
Oh, okay.
He knows all about it. But
like even today, guys, if you are into anything of the precious metals world, we'll even say biblically, look into silver, guys. Just
yeah.
if you have some, hold it. Don't look to sell it. These are those ancient currencies that will always be a currency. I was going through some numbers and charts, and I was like, oh my God. Yes, the dollar may look like it's up, but then compared to the ratio to gold and any other decentralized non-fiat currency, we'll go back a couple years, we're down 80 something percent cash to Bitcoin. We're down 60 something percent cash to gold. We're down, I think it's 120% on silver. You know what I mean? And these are like from 2020, not even like from ages ago. I'm talking 5-year difference.
No, I know. I've been investing in silver for a while. I bought it at $17 an ounce, so it has definitely appreciated, and I'm on the hunt for more, and I'm always looking for it. But
and
it's definitely a good way to hedge your bets.
Well, that's commodities, real estate, things like that. It's weed.
It's weed.
Weed's a commodity. Weed's gotten cheaper and more expensive, all depending where you're at on what's going on and what's happening. Weed has made some people rich and famous, and weed has made some people crash and burn.
That's right. And just like anything else. Hey, let's bring Jason on.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Let's include him in this. Yeah, with us right now, Jason Ortiz, the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Last Prisoner Project. I don't want to go into the whole thing, Jason. You're a legend.
We'll talk about, yes.
You are the director of the Last Prisoner Project. You have been a Connecticut native, grassroots activist. Now you've taken it to the national stage. Director of Last Prisoner Project. Tell us a little bit about, it's been a while since we've chatted.
Sure.
What's going on, first of all, with Last Prisoner Project? How are you on your quest to free all of the cannabis prisoners?
Well, we still keep putting more folks in prison, so we're not the last one. Excuse me. So, I mean, it's definitely been a switch with the new administration, right? Like, there's a different tone towards cannabis, although most recently with the rescheduling efforts and even the hemp bill, the hemp ban that went through, it's been a little chaotic at the federal level when it comes to cannabis policy. And while Trump has definitely been using his pardon authority pretty liberally for all kinds of people that don't deserve it, he has yet to really move on anything cannabis or drug related, really. So it hasn't been the best 2025 for us. Like, we definitely have a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of arrests happening. The FBI put out some data that it was at least 200,000 arrests still happening per year, even with half the country going legal. On the positive side, we did have some leadership changes. So I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives, but our Executive Director, Sarah Gersten, who is another resident, she has moved on to do other things, and we're very happy for her. She has done so much for the Last Prisoner Project. She brought it from founding to 6 years later this national powerhouse. And so now Stephanie Shepard is our executive director. So Stephanie served on our board. She's somebody that has actually served time. She served 10 years for a conspiracy charge. And so she'll be taking the helm of the organization moving forward. And it's been an interesting year for cannabis policy in general. It's been a little bit all over the place. And it's funny, we were just talking about like folks getting rich and famous and then crashing and burning. There's a lot of businesses that did both at the same time. And so like, Cookies is going out of business or has already declared bankruptcy. And that was definitely one of the rising stars at the beginning. So, it's a tough time to be a cannabis advocate. It's a tough time cannabis business owner, and there's not a whole lot to look forward to that's kind of like in the pipeline. It's definitely going to take us trying to shift the energy of where we're at, the trajectory of where the industry is going. And so it is something that happens to all industries, right? Like there is a peak and a valley, and consolidation happens, and the folks that are able to stick around are able to benefit from that. But definitely everywhere I go, it's definitely one sad story after another. And here in Puerto Rico, it's actually been relatively stable, I would say. I mean, there are a lot of businesses that are going under. There was a lot of almost too many dispensaries on the island.
There was.
But for the most part, it's been, nothing dramatic has happened over the last couple of years here.
And they haven't changed anything.
Good.
They don't go in there every session and try to mess with the laws. Yeah. Puerto Ricans set down that medical marijuana law, and they pretty much kept it the same.
More or less. There is a new health director that oversees the entire Department of Health, but also the Cannabis Health Board. And like, to tell you how little they want to do, like his opening move, and it yet hasn't really done much else after that, was to just ban the word pharma or pharmacy from any of the names of the businesses. And like, that was it. That's all he did. So everybody was like waiting for like all these changes or big moves or what's going to happen. And they're like, some of y'all got to change your name. Otherwise, keep going.
No, they're making good money because they tax the medical marijuana. They're making good money on it down there.
Yeah. I mean,
they've kept it local. There's no Curaleaf down there.
I mean,
have they started to invade? I mean, I know there's local, like big companies, right?
It's not the MSOs that we know by name, but there is still a lot of outside investment buying up all those smaller businesses. And there are some, First Medical owns a pretty big percentage of the island. And so it's not that there's no colonialism happening.
Corporatism.
Right? Like that is happening. But it's a little bit more quiet, I guess. Like a lot of the same brands and like business entities like still exist. There's no Curaleaf, there's no GTI, there's no those folks here, but it is consolidating, and there are definitely folks that are going out of business, and then some of these bigger businesses do pick it up. So
a lot of the grows. I think the grows are consolidating. Yes,
all of it is. I mean, dispensaries too, for sure.
Well, I mean, that makes it easier for the government, but I mean, I think the thing with Puerto Rico, it does. And then I've said this about Connecticut. The reason they've corporatized everything is because it's easier for them. It's easier for them to deal with 4 corporate entities than it is to deal with 50 entrepreneurs. The
bigger entities can write bigger checks.
Exactly, right? And they're only dealing with, a few people. It's true. And,
I do think like the biggest thing that we should talk about, right? And like the biggest move that has happened in cannabis very recently is the executive order by President Trump to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3. And so
now, I'm very curious on your take on that.
Well,
first of all, we know it's just a recommendation.
Right. That's what I was going to say, is that it didn't actually do anything, right? It just instructed different agencies to do things, with the most important one instructing the Attorney General to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3 in the most expeditiously way possible, right? Like that word. And so, she could come down with a
Pam, tomorrow. Let's go.
Pam Bondi from Florida. Yep. So like she could come out with a rule tomorrow. There are some rumors that she might do it by the end of the month, although we're getting there. But she could also do nothing. And so it isn't actually something that is set in stone is actually going to happen or not. It will help some businesses with some of their taxes, with the 280E tax restriction being removed. But for the most part, it didn't really do very much. It also, though, like that I thought was interesting, had a particular focus on CBD. And so CBD part of the executive order was really fascinating because he did instruct, and we'll see how it goes, but Dr. Oz was there, Medicare to reimburse folks for $500 a year for CBD medicine.
I love that. I could claim that.
Sure. And so from my understanding, that actually came because there's a particular billionaire in Massachusetts who would like to have his products he's a CBD entrepreneur and also has a number of old folks homes, and he would like his products be reimbursed by Medicare. And so that one, definitely people will benefit from that for sure. And it is a big shift in that cannabis medicine being covered by Medicare has never happened before.
Slippery slope.
Yes, for sure. And it is also, like another signal about the influence of the pharmaceutical industry and the folks that are in more of the FDA approved product space.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
So, I do think that the rescheduling order is an important thing to consider. Could happen. There's lots of details and different pieces of it, and in conjunction with the hemp ban.
Yeah, I wanted to say I believe that was a calculated move. When they did that earlier on to reopen the government, and then a few months later reschedule it. I think they were hand in hand.
Well,
what's your idea about that?
I disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I actually think that the hemp ban was more led by the Republicans in the Senate, right? Specifically Mitch McConnell.
Right.
And the president wanted to fix that when he issued his executive order, which also instructed Congress to work with his agencies to find a fix to the hemp ban, either by actually regulating hemp or extending the deadline. And so that sort of makes me believe that they actually were not in alignment on it.
Right.
And the idea was the hemp problem was something nationwide that was getting out of control because there was just too many products in southern states or states that don't have adult use cannabis.
Well, yeah.
Now all of a sudden have these cannabis products all over the place. And so those particular states were getting hammered by organizations like, Smarter
Sam.
Sam, Kevin said that. And so I think that Sam played a really big role.
Sam, we should talk about what they're doing in Mass.
And part of the reason I say that is because immediately after it happened, they claimed victory as the biggest victory in drug policy history for them, right? And so at the same time, the cannabis industry and the hemp industry then lobbied Trump to try to do something about it. And so we have seen legislation by Representative James Beard to extend the extend the implementation moment for the hemp ban by 2 years.
So that's good.
Right. And so, it's good depending on how you feel about hemp products, right? But yes, it definitely will help the folks that would like to see the hemp industry continue. And I will say on the hemp side of things, and this hemp ban, the hemp ban is the largest act of recriminalization seen since Nixon first criminalized cannabis to begin with in the 70s.
Yep.
And so, I should say, since Nixon declared the war on drugs, right?
Right.
And that is going to impact the 26 states that don't have adult use cannabis the most, right? There's a lot of the South, places like the Dakotas, Idaho, et cetera. Those places are going to go from having legal cannabis to none, right? And so there's still going to be folks consuming, of course, and those folks are now going to be arrested for that consumption.
And we're right back to the beginning. Here we go.
Yep. And then we get more people in prison, and we're right back to a situation where one half of the country lives in a space where they are much more free to consume cannabis. And then another half of the country is in a place where, selling cannabis is still a felony, and you can end up in jail for a very long time for that. And so,
I think people don't realize how many states are really still very strict on cannabis.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure that's where you're seeing all those arrests come from, or those states.
Absolutely. And primarily, for sure. There are still other arrests that are happening in adult use states. And in a really terrible example, we recently got 2 constituents for the Last Prisoner Project of 2 people. They were brothers in northern New York State who got life sentences for cultivation and trafficking. And that happened after the legalization bill passed there. And so this is relatively recently that they were sentenced. And so we are still seeing arrests happen and for extreme sentences. Yes. And so we are in this very bizarre space where they're trying to change hemp, and then maybe we're going to reschedule. And if I drive in this state, it's totally legal. But if I drive across to this state, then it's a felony. And so it's just a very complicated and confusing time for consumers. It's a complicated and difficult time for business owners, and everyone is pulled in so many different directions. and there's so many sort of like half measures happening at the federal level.
Right.
Conversation about full legalization is getting lost in the shuffle when really that's the solution to all of our problems.
All of it, right. Totally decriminalization and total descheduling.
Right, exactly.
No longer a scheduled drug at all.
And now, because there's all of these other things, like these other conversations that actually, one, hemp hasn't been implemented yet and rescheduling hasn't happened yet, but that's all anybody wants to talk about in Congress, right? They don't want to deal with the bigger issue, the bigger problem. And there's just not the votes at this point in time because the Republicans are so dead set against it. And we have to hope that there's a shift in the midterms, but even if there is, like, it's unlikely that.
I don't think that's going to be their focus. Do you know what I mean? If they do regain control, they're going to be focusing on other things.
I mean,
there's a lot to focus on.
There's a lot to focus on, but Democrats don't necessarily do a lot when they get in there either. And so maybe
that's true.
Make this something they actually do move on. But even if they were to take back the House, which, I hope they do, they would have a struggle in the Senate. And then, of course, Trump could veto or pass it if he wants. So he's actually progressive, right? Like, or more likely to move forward on cannabis policy than a lot of Democrats are. So it's an uphill battle at the federal level to see how we get there. But again, it's never been an easy fight for us to think about at the federal level moving towards legalization. So it's not a huge shift for us, but when you think through the details of like how this would actually go through, it can be a tall challenge to figure out how
how do you maintain all the aspects where everybody wins? And that never happens, but I was saying this before, cannabis, the plant itself is just so unique in its many uses that I don't think there's anything out there right now that you could even akin it to as far as regulating it. Like, you can't say, oh, we'll regulate it like alcohol. Well, alcohol doesn't have the medicinal benefits that hemp and cannabis have. So, okay, as a recreational or an adult use thing, you could do it as alcohol, but then how do you do the medical part? And then again, you have the industrial side, which they're totally ignoring, which is probably the biggest benefit that you'll ever get from hemp.
So the industrial side will survive the hemp ban, right? So like that was the one.
I think they were pushing it more towards that.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and it's true. There is no full plant on the controlled substances list outside of cannabis being in Schedule 1 and other drugs in Schedule 1. So generally they're scheduled medicines or molecules, right? And so it would be the first time that a whole plant gets moved down the line. I mean, there are ways to do it, right? For sure. And you don't have to take any other industry wholesale, but like we could definitely have the USDA regulate the cultivation and processing of the plant. You can have the TTB, which oversees alcohol and tobacco, kind of take any of the products and like consumer packaged goods.
Consumer goods, right?
Right, that are tested, labeled, you have to say what's in it, making sure there's all that kind of information. And then just have the FDA regulate and approve of any of the products that do have medical claims. And so like, it doesn't have to be super complicated to get it done.
No, but our government.
Right. Exactly.
You should be up there. Just, tell them exactly what you just said. Very simple.
I have a few times.
Here's how you regulate 3 different agencies. Let's go.
Exactly. And let everybody out of prison and erase all of the records, right? Like that's some of the more frustrating parts of all this is that like it's actually not that complicated. The business side can of course get complicated and who regulates what and what kind of enforcement and regulations afterwards and things like that. But the bigger problem here is political, right? It's not that we don't have the policy to make it happen. It's that we don't have the political power to force the issue. And we're in such a space where like most movements don't have political power to stop what's happening across the country right now. And so we have bigger existential community organizing issues to figure out where we're going to have to work together with many other movements in order to figure out how to stop some of this crazy stuff that's happening. And, I think a really good example of where we could have done more, and I am working outside of the Last Prisoner Project to try to address this, but I think folks probably remember, I think it was back in November where the Glass House cannabis brand was raided by both the DEA and ICE. And it was actually more of an immigration raid than it was
a cannabis raid,
right? And so we had this situation where a state legal cannabis business was raided by both the DEA and ICE. 60 people were detained. One person actually died in the process.
Jesus.
And yet the movement did not come to support either. And really it became this sort of blip on our radar of something that folks are like, well, it happens, right? And so...
Well, they shouldn't have been hiring illegals, right?
Right. And of course, the owner of Glass House Brands is a former police officer. And so there wasn't a lot of movements like pity for him. And so, but these are the kind of situations that are going to come up again and again and again. Like this one was easy to ignore, but if the DEA and ICE are going to start to work together hand in hand, like knocking down doors and raiding farms, like this is a huge problem. Like ICE is way bigger, right, than the DEA. The budgets are 3 times as big, if not more. And so we're entering a place that like could get really dark, and it already is very dark. It already is happening.
Yeah, it is. All over the place.
And that's why it can be difficult as an organizer to try to give people hope right now, because I'm like, I don't know exactly how we're going to do this. And so I think that's kind of where I've been at the last few months, intellectually and emotionally, is really like, all right, I've never had this difficult of an environment to work in.
Right.
How are we going to adjust our strategies, adjust our tactics, adjust the way that we communicate and organize with each other? Because we're going into a world where AI is dominating social media. Like we can't even really use social media to organize anymore. And politicians are ever more insulated from the public and trying to figure out exactly how to shift things. So I think that's what I want to bring, to the folks on this call and to anyone that's listening, of like, now is the time to definitely like step up and help, even in just planning and talking through like how we can do things differently. Because I do think that is the most important thing we could do right now, is reset, like the old ways just don't work. Come together, figure out what we can do that would be new, how we use some of these tools to our advantage. Because right now we are looking at an uphill battle in darkness, and with a lot of our friends exhausted already. So
here in Connecticut, they are just done.
And that's right. Like I normally come in with all the sunshine and rainbows, but I'm like, I don't know.
Man,
we got to be honest with each other and figure out how we can turn the tide, because the way things are going right now is scary. But it is community action, collective organizing that has been the solution in dark times in the past. And so we can't look to movements of the past to see what they did.
We need to. I mean, I always go back to the 60s.
So I would, and I would take that and piggyback off of it, as we've gotten to exactly what you said, Jason. The world is AI controls everything. It almost makes it so that you have to go back to analog in some manner.
Yep. Flyers.
You start coming back to
I agree.
That original, like you said. How did the activists of the past get through some of these
they didn't have all this stuff, right?
So maybe, and that's where I'm taking a lot of it as well. The analog side of it might become a huge thing, where for the last 5 years, we've done Zoom so heavy for everything that the idea of literally getting back together and meeting at a coffee house, meeting at a place for something that isn't, crazy, it's not going to be streamed, and that might be the message. Like, this will not be streamed. The revolution was not televised, kind of bringing it back to some of that.
Yes.
And it's like, well, what about, yes, it's tough, but, this is where now grassroots come into play. We need 15 coffee house meetings in 15 different areas.
That's how they did it,
can't be
too.
the same person running all 15. We've gotten to a place that with a lot of things, locally and everything else, is, yes, you get to have the large Zoom meeting with, 50 people, but which one of your days now becomes 15 Zoom meetings where you're like, this last meeting with 3 people could have been a coffee meeting one time, or it could have been an email. Didn't need to be a Zoom meeting. It could have been a phone call. But we've gotten so used to dialing it in that maybe going back to analog with the mix of updating it, make it more useful for people, take a lot of the hindrances out of what analog used to be, that we hoped that digital would be, but now that analog is completely gone completely. I'm just talking maybe walks of life and how we choose to do it, Instead of shooting a text, maybe we start picking up the phone and shooting a phone call. Little things like that doesn't change us, doesn't throw us back to the Stone Age, but instead of the 30-second text, it becomes a minute and a half phone call, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, there is something to be
Great.
said about, like we were talking about, how did the old activists do it? And they met in person,
Mm-hmm.
and they organized their whatever they were going to be doing that night or whatever they would be doing for the week. And let's put, they were doing actions. And
Yeah.
I kind of see it now, but again, it's all very public and very almost too well organized. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
I
a
don't
real
know what you're saying.
grassroots, a real grassroots movement doesn't have corporate media, corporate money behind it, doesn't have the media behind it. You know, the media was
I
not
think
supporting the civil rights
I
movement.
think, I don't know if I would say that I think that we're well organized. I think we've just gotten really comfortable, right? Like
Right.
everything we're doing, we're going to do it in our pajamas, and then I'm going to overthrow the US government from my couch, right? And I agree with the Zooms, man. And like, as somebody that works remotely on a national level, like my days are all Zoom meetings, right? And so it definitely removes a certain human element of like relating to each other on a personal level, like what are you having for lunch and what are you doing on this weekend, right? And so I've definitely felt like I'm kind of over this like digital everything. Same thing with like Instagram, right? So I remember when I was first organizing, I used Facebook and Instagram a lot. It was like
Me
super
too.
helpful. But now I look at my feed and it's constantly bombarding me with negativity. And it's very
Yeah.
clear that the algorithms are set to keep us isolated. And they do
Hmm.
that for a reason, right? Because the more isolated we are, the weaker we are, the more likely we are to buy products to make us feel better. But that is a signal of like to lose point that the best solution now is to take the apps off their phone, which I did. I actually took Instagram,
Yep. Yep.
and LinkedIn off my phone, go outside, go to a coffee shop, meet in person. I actually had a really great meeting the other day with the local Puerto Rican psychedelic collective because I am working here with folks on the psychedelic side of things.
Nice.
And like it was, we set it for an hour. We ended up there for 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
Because we had more to talk about. People just sat in the same spot, talking more and more and more and planning more things. And you could tell that it was just a very different kind of enthusiasm. If we were all on a Zoom meeting, half of us wouldn't have our cameras on, people would be doing other things. And so I do think that there is a desire to return to that in person and
I
very,
do too. Community, the
social. Yeah.
sense of community.
Because I think one thing, and the sense of community is like at the core of it, but like when we digitized everything, it took a lot of the fun out of it.
Yes,
Right.
it
So
did.
we focus so primarily, like we have these tasks, and I ran 1,000 meetings, right? I made everybody focus on tasks, right? But we took the ability to joke or like take things away. It was also productive, right? And like,
Even sesh. I mean, how many
right.
good ideas come from a real sesh, right?
Right, exactly. And the folks that don't sesh find their own little group and they build their own community in a different way, right? And so, like, yeah, like we went out to eat afterwards and some people came and some people didn't, right? But that smaller group, we talked about relationships and jobs and like what kind of food you
Right.
like and like all of that. And so, I do think that there should be a sort of return to in-person organizing in a way that we haven't seen for a while. And it will likely take a long time, right? And it'll likely take a lot of folks making an effort to do things that way. But it's the only way we're going to survive. What is happening right now is with like real in-person solidarity. Because when I was looking at how Instagram, Facebook, various TikTok, right, their ability to just alter the algorithm whenever they feel like
Oh, yeah.
impact, we cannot be so susceptible to it, right? Because it's so easy to just put out content that says, did you know Joe LaChance said this horrible thing? You should cancel him,
And
right?
you
And
can, and they
so
could even create my voice doing it. They could take a sample right
yeah,
from this
there,
show.
for sure. There was like a very famous Greek economist, right, who is like very, anti-establishment, anti-current world order. He was there with the Greek folks that actually helped, overthrow the old guard. And they put out all these videos of him saying wild stuff. And he had to answer to a reporter like, why did you say that if you believe X, Y, and Z? And he's like, what are you talking about? I would never say that. And she had the video, right? And so, there are a lot of people that cannot tell the difference because they're only
No.
getting better and better. So, I think this is like in the broader cannabis movement sense, and like the folks that care about cannabis, people that use cannabis, we're definitely in sort of a space now where it's less about the policy, right?
Mhm.
Like we've moved a lot of policies and much more about the people
I
and
think so too. I
back,
agree.
right?
We have to
And
get
I
back
think
to our community.
One thing that I did, I had a lot of friends over the other day. We actually threw a party here, and it was a lot of my friend Karina. She's a DJ and has a lot of DJ friends, and we had a lot of drug policy people here. And one of the good things that we do know that like within the drug policy and cannabis policy space is that we are uniquely situated to be in person and have fun and
Yes, yes.
camaraderie, right? Like drug policy people are more fun generally and do a lot more socializing. And so we can lean back into that, right? You know, more parties and less Zoom meetings. And I think
Yeah.
we're going to get somewhere that will be both more effective, but also more beneficial to us as human beings, as people, and just more fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see it turning that way. My focus is more on community now. You know, I'm encouraging people to grow. You know, grow your own, become more
Yeah.
self-sufficient. Don't rely on these dispensaries for your medicine. You
I
know,
miss growing so much, man. I got to tell you, like, I haven't grown any since I've been out in Puerto Rico. I have this, apartment here, and so it's a little bit different. I was like, oh, I need a break. I'm sick of trimming weed all the time, right? And now I'm just like, oh, I wish I had some weed to trim. And so,
they still don't have home grow down there, do they?
no, I mean that. I don't think that would have stopped me, but like,
No, but it's time also, I know. Well,
sure,
maybe you
yeah.
do it this year, Jason.
Yeah, who knows? Get back to my roots, as they say.
Yeah.
But it's again, it's a very analog experience, right? Like
Yeah, that's what, yes.
it was so therapeutic to have my plants and be able to go hop in the tents and water and trim and all the fun stuff that like you take for granted later. Where I do think that there are a lot of ways that working with the plant itself, right, like benefits us as human beings, as
Oh,
individuals.
it does for
Members.
sure.
That has nothing to do with politics or policy.
No, it has to do with right nature,
Right. Yeah.
being close to nature. And I tell you, I was saying that to Lou. I almost went into a depression after I harvested and put all my stuff away. And then it's like, because it was like for the whole summer, I was like on a mission, and that was like my whole life. Was
Yeah.
I grew 10 plants, and
Right,
it was a
right.
big undertaking. But
Mhm.
when it was all over, it was like a crash almost. And here I am in the winter, like, man, again, like you're saying, I miss
I miss
that.
it. Yeah.
Even
And
though it was a pain in the ass. You
yeah.
know, I wanted to touch base real quick with you because you are down on Isla.
Mhm.
And I wanted to see if things have changed down there since Mr. Trump has decided to reactivate the military bases and use Puerto Rico as a staging area
Yeah.
for attacks on other countries.
Yeah.
Do you feel has it changed the atmosphere there? I mean, it's got to be. I know they haven't had military open there since 2003, I believe, or 2005, right in that time
Yeah.
period.
During the Vietnam.
And so it's been 20 years at least. Has what's it like? Is has it changed things at all?
I mean, in a social sense for your average person, I would say no, right? Like we don't actually have troops in the streets here where we did in DC or lots of other places that were in the United States. And so that part, like I haven't felt it. Although when I was leaving Connecticut last time, I did have my flight delayed because of Maduro being in Puerto Rico. Like they did bring him here and like
They stopped. That's what I'm
they stopped here.
saying.
Yeah. And so, but in a political sense, yes, right? Like the big problem we're having here in Puerto Rico is that the PNP, the Conservative Party, just has a stranglehold over the government. And Jennifer Gonzalez, who is the governor of the island, loves Trump. So like it was just just like when Trump threw paper towels and Rosselló was there clapping it up for him. Like Jennifer Gonzalez said, thank you. Like, we're so glad that you're adding all of this military to the island again.
Of course, it brings revenue. Of course,
I mean, I'm sure there's some money exchanging hands. I don't know if that would bring
I
back
would.
Puerto
I
Rico,
would think
right?
so.
Yeah. Because the troops, I guess, might buy food and stuff, but it's not like the United States pays us like to do all these things. But it's further cementing the status quo is what I
Right, that's what
right?
Lou and I were talking about. How the whole movement
And
of has just
yeah,
it's kind of killed it. The
right.
movement for
And I have been
sovereignty and all
disappointed.
that.
I have been disappointed with the opposition parties, both the Populares, which are like the Democrats, but even the Independentistas, right? Like the response has been lackluster, to say the least. So the biggest remilitarization of our island in, like you said, decades. And so it hasn't shifted a lot, right? But like it should have. And
Right. That's yeah.
it's a different kind of problem of like, man, so this is something that's like really bad for our people long term. Like,
Because he's not going to leave.
I mean, they've been here the whole time, right? Like, but definitely, like,
Right.
right now the island is surrounded by drones, right? Like,
That's
there are hundreds of drones that are flying around Puerto Rico and taking pictures, collecting information. They're out in the ocean. They're bombing ships. Like this is really bad, and it's not
so sad,
it's
Jason.
just not sparking the outrage that I would have liked, right? Like from the folks that are happening. But I think this is, again, I want to have a sober, honest conversation about where we're at, right? Because it's something that is affecting movements across the board. Because I had a good friend who works with the Maria Fund who was talking about, she works with a lot of, the teachers unions and the folks that are taxi drivers and like all these different labor unions and other types of movements like feminist movements. And it is across the board. Everyone is just kind of scared to make a move.
Right.
Funding is getting cut. So like everybody's shrinking and it's a very difficult time. And so it is a widespread problem. The same thing is happening in the United States with a lot of nonprofit movements, right?
Big time.
Even drug policy, funding is drying up, even within the industry, right? So like within the industry, say for other cannabis orgs like the Last Prisoner Project, businesses are hurting more than they have before. And the ones that would support are just not as able to support as much. But even some of the bigger MSOs now that would have given lots of money, just take that money and donate it directly to Trump and bribe their way to the progress. And that means that anyone that is in an advocacy space is competing over smaller and smaller dollars in a more and more difficult environment. And so both Puerto Rico and the states are being militarized in a really scary way, right?
Right now, yeah.
ICE is definitely killing people across the country.
Yeah, they might as well be the military or the National Guard, or they might as well.
They have literally brought in the National Guard, right?
Yeah, so like, what's the difference?
And so this is where, like, when you think about public uprisings, and there's been small ones, across the country, but like, what is it going to take for that kind of situation to spark everywhere? Like we're past whatever line I would have said if you would have asked me a long time ago, right? It's like, oh, well, when there's troops in the streets, then people will resist.
Well, there are in certain cities
for a while, right? And so I think this is, again, same thing with Puerto Rico, right? Like there has to be a convening of folks that care enough to take a chance at organizing to push on things.
Yeah, you got to be willing to die, let's be real, or go to jail. I mean,
right.
Seriously, exactly. You look back at Martin Luther King. Today's his birthday, right?
Yep.
Malcolm. Those people were willing to die for the cause, and they did. And how many other went to jail? Tons, but they were willing to put their neck out on the line. They didn't have technology. They just had the pure passion and desire to make a change. And we need to see that again. I hate to say it. It was a very violent and disruptive time, but we need to see that again.
I don't know that we need to see it because I don't know that it would work, right?
Like it might be a different,
We're at a different scale now, right? It's like how many people would have to die for this to change? Like I don't think there's a number you could put on that. Like at this point, while I do think you want to look at the past for insight over how things went in that context, like we are in a very different context.
Oh, it's
right?
like reverse.
The Black Panthers have been okay. So for example, right, like street protest was effective and they actually had the strategy that we're going to literally fill up the jails. But if you look at things like the climate change movement or the movement to stop the genocide in Gaza, they had millions of people in the streets, right? Lots of people got arrested and it
didn't change
the impact
that. The protests don't work. Right?
The way the media is handling things now, the way social media is handled now, it doesn't have the same impact that it did before.
I agree.
More so than sort of being willing to sacrifice, which I do think you have to be willing to be fearless without necessarily
being courageous, right?
Courageous, right? But it's more about having to be creative at this point. Thinking
outside the box.
Yeah, the old ways aren't going to work, and just kind of throwing bodies at the problem, like That's why they spend all this money to build all these detainment centers, right? So they can put as many of us in there as they want to and make lots of money doing it. And so
this is where the people need to get together, groups, and come up with new creative ideas.
Also read and figure something out, right? Again, so like we were talking yesterday at that psychedelic summit, psychedelic meeting, about how do we create a multi-drug program coalition of some kind, where we at least just come together and talk about like, what are you doing, right? Like, what is your movement doing? Like, what events you have coming up? And this is something that, like, when I was at college at UConn, I was in charge of one of the lefty newspapers. And one of the first things I did was just bring a bunch of activist groups together so that they could fill out this calendar and then actually like write articles for my paper. And it was called The Meeting of the Minds. And like that ended up turning into this much bigger movement where we then ended up running people for student body government and blah, blah, blah. So,
well, that's the tech. I mean, we're going to have to get that down to newsletters.
I do think that. Yeah. And I do think that like we need to meet up in a coffee shop and talk, right? Like first step. So, hey, you know what? Like, I'm sure I'll be in Connecticut again soon in the next couple of months. Let's do a little coffee shop tour, you know, to come out and talk. And I think, you know, it's funny, we were kind of developing this live, but actually that's a really good idea.
I do too, Lou. Thank you so much for that. I agree. Yeah. Well, we are almost out of time, Jason. Yeah, we will make that happen. You just let us know when you're coming to town, brother, and we'll let you know when we're coming to town. But give us all your socials and how people can get in touch with you.
No, I will not give you my socials.
Okay, your email.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Your phone number. No.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. lastprisonerproject.org, jasonjortiz@gmail. Reach out and let's grab coffee.
All right. Thank you, Uncle Lou. Any last words?
Stay happy, healthy, and high, my friend.
All right. You can like, share, subscribe. Love you, Jason.
Love you guys.
See you soon.
See you soon. I'll be back when the snow's over.
Like, share, subscribe at Joe the Weed Guy, at Green Haven Media, and Cannabis Corner Radio. Thank you to our sponsor, Metatron Homegrown. We will see you next week. Love you. Peace and love. Thank you, Jason.